January is here, the weather is cold, and the days are short. But one of the true bright spots about January is that the Rady Jewish Community Center is about to kick off another fantastic Music and Mavens concert and lecture series. Starting this Tuesday, January 7th at 2 p.m., the Music and Mavens series will be offering no less than 19 events to keep you warm, informed, and entertained during the winter and early spring months. Now, in its 27th year, this series has delighted Winnipeg audiences, and joining me here in the Classic 107 studio to talk about this year's Music and Mavens lineup, I am joined by Karla Berbrayer, who is the founder and producer of Music and Mavens series. Hey, Karla, great to have you here.
Nice to be here, Chris.
So yesterday, I had an opportunity to look at the 2025 season brochure in depth. It's another gangbuster season. A big congratulations. The series is very popular. Why do you think it's so popular? And did you ever dream it would be this well received 27 years ago?
Well, when you say 27 years, I go, oh my gosh, that can't be, that's so amazing. But yes, it is 27 years. And when I started up the series 27 years ago, my goal was to present stimulating programs, cultural programs throughout the afternoon in the middle of the coldest days of the winter, because there really wasn't anything else to do culturally in the middle of the afternoon on a weekday in Winnipeg. And 27 years later, I still feel that we fit that bill, that we provide the best entertainment and education and stimulation that one can find in Winnipeg in the middle of an afternoon on a cold Winnipeg weekday. So the same reason why I wanted to create the series that many years ago holds true for why it is relevant today. And so therefore, I'm not that surprised that it's still popular in the way it is, because we are it. And I think that when you're in a bigger city, often you do find more opportunities for what do I do on Tuesday at 2.
Right.
But here, I feel really privileged that we are the venue that is providing that opportunity for people to find what to do in the middle of a cold weekday afternoon.
And one of the things that's so great about the series is the concerts and lectures happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They all start at 2 p.m. What was your thinking behind that originally? Just keeping it regular.
Yes. I think everybody loves to have a schedule, Chris. You like to wake up in the morning and know what you're doing every day. And for the people who come on a regular basis to know that every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock p.m. I have something to do, I think that's a real bonus and helps people arrange their week. So we looked, in the early years, should we change it? Should we throw in a Wednesday? Should we make it earlier? Should we make it later? And I was pretty steadfast on the concept that no, we don't change anything. We just stick with the regularity of Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 o'clock. People will figure out how to have their lunch, what to do afterwards. And what's fabulous is that I often hear people post-performance making their plans for the following Music and Mavens event and how they're going to get together with somebody for lunch pre-concert. Or they go to the gym, they go work out at the Rady JCC, then they go for lunch in the cafeteria at the JCC.
Make a day of it.
And then they come to the concert. So somebody said to me, where else can you go have a workout and have lunch and go see a fabulous concert all in one day? So
there you have it. I'm super curious about the programming of the lecture series. There's so many interesting and engaging topics that are covered this year, as there have been in previous years. Do you brainstorm about what topics you want to cover? And how does that come together, that lecture part of the Music and Mavens?
So I have a file on my desk all year long, Chris. And in that file, when I read something in the news or I hear about something on social media that I really think is worth discussing, it goes into that file folder. So all year long, I'm collecting ideas of what is topical. And when I hear about a speaker that is somebody that I would like to invite to Music and Mavens, I put their name in that file. So by the time it comes around for me to sit down with my cup of coffee and spread out all my notes in front of me, I usually have a lot of notes. And then there's the people that I didn't get a chance to invite last year because I had too many speakers on the roster, and they become top of my list for the following year. So there's kind of an ongoing roster in my head or in my files of people I would like to invite to speak.
And so that's the lecture series. And then how does the concert series happen? Do people approach you about concerts that they want to do, or do you approach them, or is it a little bit of both?
It's definitely a little bit of both. There are people with whom I've worked with for years, Chris, that I just know that I can call them up and throw out an idea and say, what do you think? Could you put together a whole afternoon of this particular singer? And they'll go, yes, Karla, I think I could do that. So there's those people with whom I just can bounce off ideas, and it's a wonderful back and forth. There's other people who do approach me and they say, I would really like to be on Music Mavens, and pitch an idea to me, and I'm always interested in that. And then there's me going to concerts throughout the city on a frequent basis and being in the audience and not being able to just listen to the music sometimes because I'm saying, oh, that drummer in the background, I've never seen that person before, and they're really interesting. Or that singer, I've never heard him or her sing before. And I take down the notes of who that person is, and I might contact them in the future and say, I heard you sing, and would you like to put together a band of your choosing to perform on Music and Mavens? And that kind of thing is something I really enjoy doing as well.
So you're about to embark on your 27th year of Music and Mavens. As the producer, what do you look forward to most about when the season starts?
Oh, I look forward to greeting the audience, quite honestly. You know, there's an enthusiasm of people who've been looking forward to the opening of Music and Mavens for a while. There's a buzz. There's the people who are calling the Rady JCC saying, when does Music and Mavens start up, and when do I get my brochure, which was an issue because we had a mail strike this year. So we had a hard time getting the brochures out. So to me, seeing the audience, the live audience in the theater, is what is wonderful, both for the speaker presentations and for the concerts. I just love greeting the audience.
We only have time to skim the surface of the 19 events that are happening for Music and Mavens. I want to start with the lectures. You've got some lectures that are hyper-local, very appropriate for Winnipeg audiences, but you also have lectures that are sort of more outward-looking. I want to start with the local lectures. Can you talk about Kim Bailey and Rochelle Squires and Dr. Katarina Meyer?
Sure.
Can you tell us about those?
So Kim, the topic that I approached her on, which is controversy and compassion, harm reduction and supervised consumption services in Winnipeg, is very topical right now. And I felt that she was the one person who could really address that. There's so many discussions. People have very strong opinions about opening up consumption sites in Winnipeg for people who have addictions, and where they should be and how safe they are and whether they should even exist. So that was a topic that I wanted addressed. And in my speaker presentation, sometimes it's about the topic and sometimes it's about the speaker. With this, it was the topic that I wanted covered, and I knew that Kim Bailey would be the person who could best address it. So that was why I went to Kim. You talked about Katarina Meyer. Well, again, homeless encampments and community well-being is the topic that I asked her to speak on. And our tent cities in Winnipeg are growing. It is really a concern in how to provide safe environments for homeless individuals. And Katarina is a criminologist and associate professor in the Department of Criminal Justice at the University of Winnipeg. And I knew that this is a topic that she has invested a lot of time and research in. So I asked her because I wanted her to speak on that topic. Now, Rochelle Squires, you also mentioned. I just find Rochelle very interesting, and she calls herself a recovering politician.
I saw that in the description. I laughed out loud at that one.
So, I approached her as a speaker. The other two I approached because I wanted the topic covered and I knew that they would be the right people to cover the topic. Rochelle I approached as a speaker because I find her a really interesting person, and I wanted her to talk about how her topic is thriving through transition and how she has managed to go through all these different transitions in her life from being a politician to the positions she is holding most recently.
Mm-hmm. So, and then you've also got the very sort of outward-looking world issue lectures. For example, I interviewed Stephanie Petsume-Stobie before, a number of months ago. Her background is incredible and her story is incredible. Can you talk about those kind of lectures, the sort of outward-looking ones?
Yes. So Stephanie's topic is 50 years after the fall of Saigon, stories of Southeast Asians in Canada. And she's an incredible person, as you mentioned. She's a professor in conflict resolution studies at CMU, Canadian Mennonite University. And she's also a leading expert on Southeast Asian dispute resolution processes. So she's somebody who's able to really delve into the situation of people who have had these really huge challenges in coming to Canada and speak from personal experience, which I thought is really interesting. She also, her husband happens to be Carl Stobie, who's the Associate Concertmaster of the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra and Concertmaster of the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra. And he's going to be joining her for her presentation because he's going to perform a piece by a Canadian composer, Vivian Fung, whose family are survivors of the Cambodian genocide. So together, I think they're just going to be a really interesting presentation, and having Carl join her is a fringe benefit as well.
Cherry on top.
Yes.
And then you've got a talk on anti-Semitism happening on January the 21st. Tell us about that one.
So Bel Jarnewski is the executive director of the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada, and I felt that the topic of anti-Semitism is apropos right now because we are a Jewish community center, the Rady JCC, and we have felt the anti-Semitism in the city, and I think it's something that needs to be brought forward and discussed. And Bel is the right person, I think, to lead that discussion. It also happens to be the week prior to the Holocaust Remembrance Day, the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and having her speak on that topic I hadn't thought about the scheduling when I scheduled her, but it's kind of a fringe benefit as well that we have the Holocaust Remembrance Day coming up soon after her presentation, because it puts the whole concept of anti-Semitism in a different light as well.
And just for our audiences, it's not all heavy topics for the lectures. There's also a really fun one, words and music, the stories behind the books. Can you talk about the John Einerson talk?
Sure. Well, I've wanted to get John Einerson on the series for a number of years, and this is one of these people that I've had on my file that it just kind of worked because he's launching another book. He's got so many, and this book is one that he's going to talk about, where he's done biographies on Neil Young and Randy Bachman and John Kay of Steppenwolf and the Guess Who, and this is his 21st book, Chris. So in this book, he talks about the fascinating and bizarre backstories that have occurred during the researching and writing of each of his books. So it's kind of like a bit of a gossip thing, and he's just such an interesting guy because he has so much music history. Yeah. And I have wanted, as I said, to have him as a presenter on the series, and he's my final speaker, so it's just kind of a fun way to end the series of speakers.
So those are the lectures. I want to turn to the concerts. One of the things about Music and Mavens is some of the audience members are going to be retired. They're going to have more flexible schedules. But you've programmed a number of concerts that would appeal to that demographic, but not only that demographic, like younger audiences as well. They're really timeless acts. Can you briefly talk about some of those shows, like the Sheena Ratai show and the Aaron Propp and Larry Roy show? Can you talk about those a bit?
Sure. Well, with the Sheena Ratai, that's a musician that I can bounce ideas off of. When I mentioned earlier that there's certain people that I call and I said, what do you think of this? So the Paul Simon Show is one that I have wanted to do for a while on Music and Mavens, and I knew that Sheena has done versions of this show in Winnipeg, but I asked her to do the show reflecting on the Jewish side of Paul Simon and how the South African influences play into his work so strongly, so that she could focus on those particular songs a little bit more. And she's put together a great band, and it's going to be a rocking, singing, dancing kind of afternoon. So yes, kind of, if you're of the age where Paul Simon was your favorite singer at that time, you will know every single song that's on the rep. The Joni Mitchell. Okay, Erin Propp again. She's another one that I bounced this idea off. I said, Erin, I think she had done one Joni Mitchell song in a show that I had her perform in. And at the end of the show, I came to her and I said, what do you think about doing a whole afternoon of Joni Mitchell? And she said, wow, I love that idea, Karla. So yes, this is a premiere of a Joni Mitchell concert for Erin Propp and Larry Roy, and they work so well together, and she's calling it Circle Games and Summer Lawns, a Joni Mitchell anthology. So I'm excited about that one. The Tribute to the Carpenters, which is the Nadia Douglas Band. So Nadia had done a tribute to the Carpenters a number of years, well, before COVID, which is not a number of years, but a few years back, just before COVID. And it was so popular and sold out so quickly that I thought, I'd really like to have her back again. And something that Nadia and I have discussed is the fact that Karen Carpenter died from anorexia nervosa. And that is an issue which is still very, very current today, and that it's something that people should be aware of too, that how she died. So I asked her if she could mention that as a course of the presentation as well, that some education about these wonderful performers, as well as the fun and fabulous afternoon of music that she's going to present.
And there's even a Beatles show too, right?
Yes. Aaron Hutton and I have worked together for a while, and he actually said to me at one of the concerts that I had him do, he said, I'd love to do a Beatles show. And I said, you got it. You got it. Yeah. We're going to do the Beatles. And so that is, I would say that is going to be a fabulous show. I mean, who doesn't love the Beatles? And Aaron's going to kill that show.
Easy sell.
With Danny Carroll and Ruslan Rusin. So, yeah. It's going to be a great show.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so those are sort of the more rocky, poppy concerts that are happening for Music and Mavens. But then you've also got a series of concerts that are happening that are sort of classical and jazz and world music influenced. Can you tell us about some of those, like the Julie Husband one that's coming up on the 14th, and you've got Elation Paul's in March. Can you talk about a little bit of those?
Sure. So Julie Husband she's got a quartet where everybody plays a wide variety of instruments. It's crazy. They play the flute, the clarinet, the saxophone. There's 12 woodwinds showcased amongst 4 people. So they're just constantly putting down their instruments, picking up another instrument. Yes, it is a classical concert, but for me, one of the really fascinating aspects of it was the wide variety of instruments that get showcased amongst her performers. So that's just going to be fabulous. Because
and Julie's a very good bassoon player as well. So.
Yes. So and that one's coming up really soon, January the 14th. So that's going to be great. You mentioned the Elation Paul's one. So Elation Paul's is she's assistant principal second violin with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, and she runs the Rosamund Summer Music Academy, which is a great festival. She has debuted an album of prominent Canadian composers, and so I approached her because I wanted her to do some music from that album to expose the Music and Mavens audience to some classical Canadian composers. And I feel that education is a big part of Music and Mavens, that people should walk away having heard some music that they haven't heard before, and especially classical music, Canadian composers. This is all really different. However, I'm also getting her to throw in some of Ravel's Kaddish and selections from Schindler's List, because I know that these are just beautiful, beautiful pieces of music. So it's a really blended program that people shouldn't be intimidated by the fact there's going to be these Canadian composers that they haven't heard before, because it's a blended program.
Do you want to just quickly mention the concert that's happening at the Gwen Sector Center with Philippe Meunier?
Sure. I did a concert last year at the Gwen Sector Creative Living Center, which touched on some Latino influences, and it went over really well with that audience. So I'm decided I would bring Philippe Meunier, who's a specialist on the Spanish guitar. He's going to do an afternoon of flamenco music, and it will take place at the Gwen Sector, not at the Rady JCC. So it's a different venue completely, a different time, a different day of the week. It's a Wednesday at 1:30 in the afternoon. But the information is on the Rady JCC site as well. And yes, I think it's an opportunity for people to really immerse themselves in flamenco music.
And one of the things that I noticed about this year's season is there's an African influence as well. Can you talk about the Joyce German show and help me out here with Tommy Phil?
Tommy Phil. I'm going to talk about Tommy Phil first because he's in January, the 16th of January. He calls his music Afro-Diem, and I always try to find a new performer that I'm not that familiar with that has come into my scope of vision, and Tommy Phil is one of those this year. I found that I heard his name popping up in different aspects. I started listening to his music quite a bit, and he just has such a great beat. So it's this African percussionist, tribal percussion kind of music, but then there's Canadian influences as well. And he's from Nigeria, and we have a large Nigerian population in Winnipeg, and I just thought it would be great to present some of that Nigerian culture on the Rady JCC stage and expose people to that, because it's just such you just can't stop moving when you listen to it. It's great music, and I think he does a great job, and he's really excited to be on the series. Now, Ingia is the stage name of Joyce German, and Joyce came to my attention because she was actually asked to perform in a couple of other shows that I had presented over the past year. And she is a saxophone player, and she's also a singer, which I was amazed when I heard her sing. I was like, wow, you play the sax and you sing? I mean, there's some diversification there. So I approached her and I said, I'd like you to put together a band of your own choice. And I'm giving you free range to do a concert on Music and Mavens. And she's pretty excited about it. It's called Rhythms of the Nile, a jazz tribute to South Sudan because she is a South Sudanese Canadian saxophonist and vocalist. And so she's taking the African influences and blending it with jazz.
Yeah, it's going to be a great concert. Karla, the season has such a great lineup as always. Can you quickly talk about tickets? And also, can people get passes? Like, can they get passes just to the concerts and just to the lectures, or do they have to buy passes for the entire Music and Mavens?
So tickets, you should go to www.radyjcc.com, and you can get concert passes. We sell full concert passes, we sell mini concert passes, and my advice is buy a concert pass, because we do sell out, and people come to the shows at the door and go, I didn't expect you to be sold out. And yes, we do sell out on a Tuesday afternoon in the middle of the winter. We sell out a lot.
Yeah.
So I advise people, don't be disappointed. Buy a concert pass, and when you buy a concert pass, you are automatically enrolled in every single concert on the series. You can also get a mini concert pass where you choose 6 concerts that you would like to attend, and you're automatically enrolled in those 6 concerts. And then you're in, and you do not have to worry that you're going to miss out on a concert. You can buy individual tickets to concerts. That's also possible online. Now, the speakers are free.
Okay.
So all speakers are free, although this year, for the first time, Chris, we are encouraging people to register for the speakers in advance, because we've had issues where we just have so many people
Standing
in the
room
room
only. Yeah.
that we're starting to have that wonderful problem of not enough space in the room. And so for everybody's comfort level, we're asking people to go online and to pre-register for the speakers as well, even though the speakers are at no cost.
Absolutely great. Karla, this looks like a super fun and exciting season. Again, a big congratulations to you. All the best in the next few months. I'm sure the series is going to be amazing. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today. As always, this has been wonderful.
Thank you, Chris.